Hello and welcome back to a brand new Goalhanger video, and here today we're going to be discussing 3 realistic signings that Derby County could make in this January transfer window. It's currently the 2nd of January as of recording, and I've highlighted 3 positions that Derby County could look to strengthening in the transfer window this winter, and hopefully these are 3 realistic signings that are good to theorise and maybe Derby County could potentially make and would suit the system that Paul Warne likes to play. Now the 3 positions that I've highlighted is the left back / left wing back position, centre back and strikers. These are, I think, the 3 positions that Derby County should be primarily focusing on improving. I know we could probably highlight a load of different positions in the team that we could look to strengthen as we look upwards in the championship table, but I've highlighted those 3 key positions as of watching the recent games. I think we could really do with some backup there and also some first team options there as well. Now I've gone with the left wing back / left back position, as Paul Warne usually at home likes to play 4 at the back, and then away from home likes to play 3 centre backs with 2 wing backs out wide. And I think we could do with a little bit more of a defensive minded player, similar to that of Callum Elder, who's really stepped up this season and looked really good, but we could definitely do with some cover, because I think at the moment us trying to put wingers at left wing back doesn't really work, and we could do with a bit more of a defensive player in that position. And the centre-back position, I think once again, it's pretty similar there. The back 4, when players are out injured and players need resting, our only really choice of cover is Sonny Bradley, who last season at the back end of the season did put in some really good performances, but I think making the step up back to the championship, I think he's struggled a little bit. He's not really been able to have a really good game for us so far. Yeah, obviously he started in the last game against Sheffield Wednesday, but got hooked at half-time, and deservedly so. He just was poor. He wasn't the best of his games at all, and I think we definitely need some more cover in that position. And the striker position, the position that probably every team in the division wants to strengthen and wants to find that 20 goal a season striker. Obviously Derby, we primarily go with Jerry Yates up front, and then sometimes go with him and Caden Jackson as a 2-man team up front, and I think we could definitely do with strengthening that position. Away from home, we haven't been very clinical, probably at home as well. Jerry Yates is a good, reliable championship striker, but we could do with another option when we do go with 2 players up top. And Jerry Yates has done well so far, but like I said, he's not that clinical striker, and we could do with another option up there that can complement his style. And I think Caden Jackson has definitely struggled. I don't think he's been as good as what he would like to have been. I don't think his form's been there. He's been clinical at times, but not enough. And so I definitely think we need another option in that position. Now, the first realistic signing that I'm going to highlight today is obviously in the left back / left wing back position, and I've gone for Luke Thomas at Leicester City. The 23-year-old hasn't featured too many times for the Foxes this season in the Premier League as they fight survival in the relegation zone at the moment. And I know he's not the first choice in that team, and he's probably going to be looking for some game time. And I think it's the possible addition that the Rams could make on loan. It's not someone we're going to be able to sign permanently. He's got too much Premier League experience, and a team definitely at the top end of the Championship would probably look at bringing him in on loan. And if Leicester City get relegated, they're probably going to want to keep hold of him as a first team option in the future. He's played a lot of games for Leicester City. He's also played in Europe. He's played in the FA Cup final, so he's an FA Cup winner. He's only 23 years old. He come through the England youth setup as well, which shows how good he is and what a high pedigree of player that he is. But he's only featured once in the Premier League so far this season, as well as 3 cup appearances, so he's definitely more of a backup option, as we've seen him been used in the Cup. And last season he spent time on loan at Sheffield United in the Premier League. He spent half season there. His loan was cancelled on the 12th of January, and then he went on loan to Middlesbrough. So he's definitely a player that teams at the top end of the Championship are going to be looking at, and I think he's a player that Derby County could look to bring in as a backup option to Callum Elder, or as a player who can challenge Elder for his position. We know Callum Elder can't really play 2 games a week as he struggles for fitness, so I think Luke Thomas could be a really, really good signing for the Rams if we could potentially bring him in. However, I'm probably aiming quite high there as a realistic signing. As I mentioned, he was obviously on loan at Premier League Sheffield United for the first half of the season last season, and then also Middlesbrough in the second half of the season. He didn't pull up any trees on them loans whatsoever, but he's a Premiership player, isn't he, and one that's going to be looking for some game time to keep his fitness up, and he's probably going to be looking towards the top end of the Championship. And I think why he might favour the Rams if it was a potential move was that obviously it is quite close to Leicester. It wouldn't require any movement really in terms of his personal life. He'd be able to stay in the same location as Derby is only down the road. But that's one sign I think we could make. He can obviously operate in that left wing back position He's got Premier League pedigree, he's got Premier League quality, and it'd be a really good addition if the Rams could look at a player like Luke Thomas coming in on loan. Like I said, I don't think we could get him on a permanent whatsoever. I think he'd command too much of a fee. Now, obviously, I mentioned it would be a loan sign. The Rams currently have 5 players on loan. You can only have 5 players in the matchday squad on loan in the Championship. And I know that a few people have mentioned on Twitter, Derby County fans, that they'd maybe potentially like to see Chirera, obviously the Wolves loanee, go back to Wolves. He's not featured too many times for Derby County this season. He came under fire quite a bit after the Leeds United loss when he was brought off the bench. He looked quite good when he was brought off the bench against West Brom, looked quite tidy, but a player that's obviously struggled with injuries so far with the Rams, and a player who's not featured too much. Now, the next player that I think the Rams could bring in to strengthen the squad in the centre-back position, obviously we know that Curtis Nelson, Aaron Cash and Nat Phillips have been the primarily first team starters for the Rams this season, whether it's in a back 4 or a back 3. But obviously when Aaron Cash most recently has been out with injury, we've seen Sonny Bradley come in and not really be able to leave his mark on the team and put himself in contention for first choice. So I think we definitely do need another player to come in and provide cover, and that is Mael Gavogne, I think is how you pronounce it. Currently the centre-back for Barnsley, 25 years old. He's played 24 matches in League One so far this season, with an average rating of 7.08. He's been very good, featured a lot for Barnsley this season. I think he's at the perfect time to make that step up into the Championship. Last season he played the majority as well, and he averaged a rating of 7 every single game, which is really solid for a centre-back, obviously, of a player who was part of the team that was pushing for the playoffs off the top end of League One. And I think he's one of the players that would command a fee for Derby County. I think he would command the fee of around £750,000 to £1 million from Barnsley. A player that's currently performing probably at the top of his game in League One for a very decent Barnsley side in that division as well. And I think he's probably ready to make that step up. He's probably got a couple of suitors as well with how good of form he's been in since joining the Reds. And I think Derby County could look to bring him in and help bolster that squad. I definitely think he could push Aaron Cash and Nelson and Nat Phillips for their first team places. I think he could make that step up and bed into the team really well. And he would command a fee that I think Derby County would probably be willing to spend this January transfer window. I'd expect us to spend at the most £1 million altogether this January transfer window. He's the only player in these 3 realistic signs that I've highlighted which would command a transfer fee. And I think he'd probably be a really good addition. He's one of the top centre-backs in League One at the moment, and I think he's a player that Derby County could look to snap up and add to the team. Now, the next player that I've highlighted is in that coveted striker position. Probably every team wants a new striker in January, someone to add goals to that side. And Derby County, I definitely think we need one. We've been wasteful in front of goal, I think it's fair to say, in most of our fixtures this season, apart from probably the Bristol City and Portsmouth home matches. Away from home, we've really struggled to find the back of the net consistently. Jerry Yates is a really good addition to the team, but I think up top, when we do play 2 up top, we need another player of his quality and someone who can complement his style. I don't think Caden Jackson's been good enough for us so far this season. I hope that he proves me wrong in that, but I just don't think he's quite at the level that we want of a striker. So the player that I've highlighted is one that the Rams could look to bring in on loan as they look for game time. It's Ross Stewart, the striker, currently at Southampton. He's not played too much in the 1.5 years that he's been contracted to the Saints. He's currently out with a little injury, but he should be back in the next couple of days and ready for a move in this January transfer window. I think the Rams could bring him in on loan. I think he'd cost quite a lot of money if we were trying to bring him in on a permanent. He's 28 years old. And he's been clinical at Championship level. And I think he's a player who's going under the radar, could look to get some game time. I think he's only played a couple of matches for Southampton so far in the Premier League this season. He's definitely not a first choice in that striker department. He was brought in, obviously, at the start of last season. Didn't feature too much either there, but in the 2021-22 League One season, he was so clinical for Sunderland, scoring 26 goals in League One. And then when he made the move up to the Championship with Sunderland, in 15 appearances, he got 10 goals and 3 assists. I think he's got a point to prove in the Championship. He showed he was clinical with Sunderland in League One, and also when he made that step up into the Championship. The move to Southampton, I don't think has really worked out for him so far, and I think a loan move to the Rams could be a really good option. To me, he screams like a Paul Warne signing. He's, in my opinion, similar in the style of play to James Collins, but more clinical and can play at a high level. I think he'd be a really good signing for the Rams on loan. Like I said, I think he'd command too much of a fee for us to bring him in on a permanent. I think he could complement Jerry Yates really well. As I mentioned, it's another loan signing and would have to terminate the loan of one of our other players. So there we go. Those are the 3 players that I've highlighted as realistic signings that Derby County could make. And I know there's a lot of if, buts and maybes in there. Obviously, 2 of the players that I've highlighted, I would expect the Rams that would probably be only able to bring them in on loan. Obviously, the other player would command a fee of probably around £1 million. These are a lot of if, buts and maybes. I'm not really sure what Derby County's transfer strategy will be in this January transfer window. I'm not sure whether we're going to look to bring in players on a permanent, or we're going to have to look to maybe cancel some of the loans that we've currently got and bring other players in on loan. So it's going to be an interesting one, and it will be interesting to see. Let me know down below who you think Derby County should sign in this winter transfer window. It's one where we definitely need to improve the squad, definitely bring in some other options for when we're resting players. So not necessarily that we have to spend a lot of money and bring in first team regulars, but squad players I'd be more than happy with. And if we could bring in one player to fill each of those 3 positions that I mentioned, I'd be more than happy, because I think at the moment on midfield, when David Ozo is back fit and whenever we've chopped and changed it, I think that can look probably one of the strongest parts of our team. I think defensively we just need that little bit of cover. I think now we're starting to see our preferred formations both at home and away. We just need that cover in certain positions, and definitely we just need to be a little bit more clinical, because I think every game we're saying if only we could have scored that chance that came our way, and maybe that result would have been different. So let me know what you think to the signs that I've highlighted today. Let me know down below. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow my social medias down below, and I'll see you in the next one.